there, thanks for joining me. I'm Amy Kunkel, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and blogger over at crazybeautiful.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this 3D watercolor flower and some little leaves to go with it. And I'll start by running my Big Shot die through. This is the Flower Frenzy large die. And I'm just going to cover the entire thing with watercolor paper. And I've cut this down to about a 6x9 piece. Now I want another little piece of this greenery, so I'm just going to cover part of that so that it cuts out again. So I'm going to set out here the pieces that I'll be using for this flower. This is the Aqua Painter. I really love using Aqua Painters for all sorts of coloring. This watercoloring is a little bit more organic, so it'll be kind of fun here. So I'm going to start with the largest flower, and I want it to be light and have a lot of white, but I'm just going to cover it, squeezing a little bit of water out with my Aqua Painter, and then grabbing some of my watered down strawberry slush and spreading it. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. I'm using strawberry slush and Blackberry Bliss. These are the two inks that the re-inkers I'm using. And you could use your ink pads, but I find I end up adding a lot of water to get this watercolor effect. So I like to just have it in a separate little palette. Alright, so I'm going to just spread that a little bit and then set that aside to dry while I work on the others. The next one, I'm going to just start with watering it down, wetting it down again, and do the same thing, but I want a darker concentration of color, so I'm going to grab that color a little bit more frequently. And if you have too much pooling, you can always just dab it with your paper towel and that will suck up the water. It'll also suck up the color, but you can always add the color back. So this one I also do want to incorporate a little bit of the Blackberry, so I'm going to wipe off my brush a little bit here and grab a little bit of the Blackberry. Now that is really, really dark. This one I've actually just put a little bit in and watered it down more, so this little cup is my watered down Blackberry and this is the more concentrated Blackberry. So in order to water it down more, you can just squeeze water into your little palette dish there. So I couldn't remember which one I wanted to use. Oh, there we go. So that's quite dark, so I'm just going to spread it a little bit, and then I just kind of want to pick it up. So you see how it was spreading and it was all really dark, but I just kind of stopped that by adding the paper towel down. I'm going to come back again and add a little bit more, maybe even a little bit more at the tip. Now in order for your watercoloring to have that more flowy kind of look, you really need to be working with it when it's really wet. Now I'm really not a professional like painter or watercolorer, but that's what I've learned in my experimenting. I'm gonna just go ahead and start on this one. The smallest one I'm gonna have a lot more of the Blackberry, but I do want to incorporate the strawberry slush. I love the strawberry slush for its pink. It's a really nice pink color that Stampin' Up! Offers. It's also going to be retiring here when the new InColors come out in June. So if you like this pink, you might want to grab it now. Okay, so then what you're going to want to do is just kind of look at these. You can see the way however you tip it is sort of the way the dark ink will land. I don't know if that's the right word. So I'm just going to tip it around a little bit to spread that, and I'm going to give these like 15 minutes to dry, and then I'll come back and finish them. To clean your Aqua Painter, you're just going to squeeze it out and brush it. It's really simple and easy to do. I'm going to move on to these while I'm at it. I want one of my stems to go in this direction and the other ones can go in this direction, so I'm going to flip this one over and paint it on this side. I've just gotten a little bit of my watered down old olive and I'm just coloring the whole thing, giving it a nice even layer of water and ink. And you can see watercoloring is really not an exact science. I just think it's so relaxing and fun to be creative, and it's really my way to let my type A rest and let my creative, messy side take over. Now while this is wet, I'm going to concentrate my old olive by just adding one more drop in. Maybe squeezing a tiny bit of water. It looks like that got a little dark. And then dabbing a little more along the stem. And if you want the tip of the petal to be darker, then that's where you would put that water. And you'll see they do kind of come up. They'll curl a little bit when they're being painted. So just do your best to kind of keep them flat. The flowers, it's kind of fun when they bend a little bit. You can see this one is kind of bending. It's hard for you probably to see from that angle. But it is curling up a little bit. But that sort of naturally drives the water then to the edges. So it's really just however you get the effect that you want. I've been playing with this for a little while today, so I'm going to try to do this and just make it darker at the stem and lighter as I go off. So set those aside. Clean up my mess a little bit here. And then I'm going to show you how to put this flower together. This one I don't think I got as purple as I wanted, so I'm going to come back and add a little bit more. Again, I got that Blackberry just too dark initially, so I'm just going to come back and recolor that. And then I'm going to just let everything dry before I put my flower together. Now that these have had time to dry, I am going to just flip them upside down, and with my bone folder I'm going to curl the edges. I'm going to curl the petals up. Now this is watercolor paper, so it's a little bit thick, which might take a little bit of muscle when you're doing this, but it does still curl quite nicely. And I'm just going to do that to all three of my petals, and I'm even going to curl up the little leaves that I have here. You can see the back looks kind of cool. And if you have something like this, this is a little quilling tool, and you want them, if you want your petals really nice and curled, you can use this. It grabs the end and rolls it in. And you can just pick this up again at your big box craft store. Alright, so then the last step is gently, and I say gently because you can rip these petals off, like you can rip them apart, so just gently take and curl it. And I'm putting these on a grapevine wreath, and I will definitely post pictures over on my blog. Let me show you how I put this together. I'm going to start with the smallest one, and I like to just kind of get right up above it, center it on the flower, and just set it down gently. I like to offset it so my petals kind of come like into the opening of the other petal. I'm not aligning them, I'm kind of offsetting them. So you just want to look at your flower and make sure it looks centered all the way down. Because sometimes what happens is you put these together and your center's way off to the side. You don't want that to happen. So just set it down gently, have a good look at it before you really let that adhesive hold. I'm going to use one of these little embellishments and a couple of glue dots to put the center on to my flower. And you can use buttons or any fun little trinket at the center. Whatever makes your heart content. I'm going to save these flowers and add them to my wreath. To use this one, I'll just snip that off. I'm going to wait to glue them on for my wreath assembly. So be sure to stop over at my blog and check that out. And thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day. Bye.